You think education's expensive, try ignorance. Education is the only thing they can never take away from you.
I like that.
You can lose your house, be flat broke, your kids can't talk to you, your wife can leave you, but you still have your education. Get up and go. We live in a society where there's so many excuses about why you can't do this and why you can't do that. I don't believe in any of that. Get up and go. You want to lose weight? Go to the freaking gym, right? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You want to go to a great school? Put in the work, man. Get up and go. Make it happen. Stop talking about it and stop finding reasons why you can't. Why today's not a good day. I'm someone who doesn't sell dreams. Like, I'm a very straight talker and I don't make promises I don't keep. So I won't tell people what they want to hear. I say no to people all the time for business, because if we are not aligned on how we're going to do this, you're better off going somewhere else. I will never for $1 sacrifice who I am. I look in the mirror every night, every morning, very proud of who I see. If you sell your soul for anything, like, I will not damage my integrity for any amount of money. Doesn't matter.
Ladies and gentlemen, Earthlings and Martians, this might be just one of the most fun episodes you'll hear on this show. Welcome back to the My First Business podcast, where I find mentors for my business and put them behind a mic. Each conversation is designed for you, my dear listener, and myself to help us improve our businesses and feel a little less lonely on this turbulent journey. My guest for this conversation is Peter Davos. Now, what I loved about Peter the most is that he brings and exudes so much energy. It's enough energy to fuel one of Elon's rockets, seriously. You'll hear and see it in just a bit. For me, Peter is, like his father, is like a real-life Odysseus. He's undergone one of the most fantastic evolutions on his journey as a learner to a business owner, from continent to continent, and this is one episode you need to hear if you think you've got it tough. So, who is Peter? Peter is the founder of Hale Education Group. Hale assists students in their university preparation, application, and admission journeys with a focus on the USA. He's been featured in over 100 times in national and international news outlets. Born in Boston, Massachusetts, Peter holds a degree of some sort from all of these places: Harvard, Oxford, Johns Hopkins, London School of Economics, and the UCLA. I mean, how ridiculous is that? And here are some numbers to help you understand the scale of Hale Education's impact. They've helped over 1,000 students from Dubai to Singapore, from Beirut to Bahrain, get accepted at American universities. All 8 Ivy League schools have accepted Hale students. 100% of the families seeking financial aid have received scholarships, and they've helped students secure a combined $40 million in merit-based scholarships in the last 8 years. In this episode, here's what Peter and I talked about: how money speaks and wealth whispers, the 7 metrics of business success, how not everyone can be a business owner, thoughts on passing a business down to your next generation, his value system, having layers to his identity and why he won't sell his soul, not taking education for granted, setting clear goals, some thoughts on cancel culture, and so much more, including a ton of cameo appearances from his late father. Peter had me chuckling the entire time as he embodied and quoted his father for parts of this conversation, including taking on a heavy Greek accent. This conversation, I hope I did justice to that, Peter. But this conversation was a wild ship ride on some really stormy seas, but I'm glad I took this journey with Peter/Odysseus, because really, these are the kind of rides that the best stories come from. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Without much further ado, here's Peter Davos on the EO series of the My First Business podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Entrepreneurs Organization, or EO for short. Since its inception in 1987, EO has evolved into a vibrant global network, now boasting 17,000 members across 60 plus countries. Now, just in the UAE, where they've been active since 97, it's especially impressive. They're approaching 150 members, representing an average revenue of $120 million and a combined workforce of 31,000 employees across diverse industries like technology, healthcare, logistics, real estate, jewelry, media services, beauty, food and beverage, and I really could go on and on. EO's strength lies in the support and the opportunities it provides. As an entrepreneur, I understand how solitary this path can be, and that's where EO UAE comes in, offering these invaluable resources through its robust calendar of events, workshops, networking opportunities, and a mentorship program that pairs you with seasoned business leaders. So if you're a business owner in search of a supportive community, rich with networking and structured support through accountability groups and mentors, then EO might be just what you need. Curious about EO? Stay tuned for interviews with EO members on this podcast, including today's guests, just so that you can get a sneak peek of what's in store. For more information and to apply, check out the link in the show notes. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Naeem.
We're going to start with a game show style, actually.
All right, there we go.
In front of you, I have two doors. I don't know if you've noticed that already.
Oh, boom.
Door number one, door number two.
Yeah.
Behind each door, there is a story.
Okay.
And I think you might have the answers to that story. So what would you pick? Let's see where this conversation goes. I'm going to throw it into randomness right from the start.
All right. I don't know. Let's go for number one.
Okay.
Nothing behind it. Oh, the Odyssey. There it is.
For those who are listening on audio, I have with me the Odyssey, Homer, essentially where novels started, I think, right?
Yeah.
This is like the
Iliad
earliest
and the Odyssey.
novel.
Yeah, the Iliad was its precursor about the Trojan War.
I wanted to bring this here for a particular reason. There's a real life Odysseus. Am I saying that right?
You are
Odysseus.
fantastically pronounced.
And I think, and tell me if this is wrong.
Yeah.
But your father might be one of them.
Yeah.
A real life Odysseus. So I wanted to talk about the man who taught you how to move mountains. By sheer will of force. Talk about him. Is he still with us, by the way?
No, rest in peace. He passed away about 5 years ago, but he's in a better place now. But huge influence in my life, and he taught me so many things by example. That's the only way really to teach, I think. I think you have three ways to learn, right? By doing, by reading, and then by, observation and hanging out with people who are more experienced and more intelligent than you. So my father was an incredible human being, and he grew up in very, very trying circumstances in the south of Greece, 1945, January. So World War II was coming to a close. Greece had been occupied by the Nazis, but then a civil war broke out in 1945 between the communists and the nationalists and the monarchists. So before he was even born, my grandmother was pregnant, right? About 7 months pregnant with him. And the communists came looking for him, looking for actually my grandfather. And they didn't find my grandfather. He had slipped out the back window. But they found my grandmother and roughed her up while she was pregnant with my dad. So his life was hard from the beginning.
From minus 2 months.
Yeah, exactly, absolutely. And, I think my personal psychology is like life shouldn't be easy, right? It wasn't easy for him. He actually, when he was growing up, they had to airdrop food into the area of Greece where he was living, which is very mountainous, secluded, right? Otherwise, everybody was starved to death. No electricity, no running water. You had to walk. Peter, I had to walk 2 hours to school uphill both ways. Dad, how'd you walk uphill both ways? This is my fucking story. Shut up and listen, learn something. So, it was a hard life, but he had to rely on himself, be resourceful from a young age. 12 years old, he left the village, migrated first to a larger village and then to Athens. So from 12 years old, he was working. So there were these newsstands that were dotted across Greece, primarily the big cities. And my grandfather, his father, as a veteran, had the opportunity to buy 2 of them because these were actually rolled out, talk about entrepreneurship, for veterans to basically invest in after the war and to be engaged. So these newsstands used to sell, periodicals, newspapers, cigarettes, everything. They used to have a telephone where you used to make, long distance calls. So from 12 years old, he was in that newsstand every single day. And that was the best school for him, right? He learned a tremendous amount in terms of business there, cut his teeth. But he had bigger dreams. He was very ambitious. Greece was too small for him, right? Like so many Greeks. I'm not trying to say my dad was unique because I know so many stories like that of my dad. When you look at like the mid-'60s, late 60s, a lot of Greeks migrated in search of a better life to the U.S. primarily. Some went to Australia, some went, to Canada, some went to Germany. But the ones that went to the U.S. were, I think, the most ambitious. So he learned English before he left, right? Got on a boat, like in The Godfather. You remember Godfather 2 when Vito Corleone's coming over? It's like, those were the 2 best weeks of my life. I had the best time on the ship. And, came over without a dollar, but a dream. And, he worked as a waiter. It was incredible journey. So in Boston, where I'm born and raised and where my dad migrated to, the #1 highest grossing restaurant at that time was called, in America, was called Anthony's Pier 4 in the Seaport District. It's no longer there. It's all been redeveloped now. But he got a job as a waiter at Anthony's Pier 4, right? Lots of celebrities would come through there, judges, politicians, best seafood in America. And he has a lot of stories from there, you know? So he told me a couple times, my dad was a very strong, physically strong guy, very tough guy, that the owner, Anthony, came. There were two separate occasions. There was an unruly patron there causing a lot of it. And Anthony comes over to my dad, who was like, you know, the big, strong dude there, and says, Yanni, you see that guy over there? Yes. Take him and drop him off the fucking pier. And my dad said, what? What do you mean? Pick him up, walk over to the pier, and drop him off.
Wow.
So I said, Dad, what'd you do? I dropped him off the pier.
Of course you did. Of course he did.
Just about his following orders, you know? So he had another bunch. I won't bore you with too many of those. But one time he said, I'll tell you another story. One time, these dirty hippies came into the restaurant, you know, with the long hair, and they were all filthy.
And they didn't shower.
They didn't stay. You smell them before you see them. And none of the other waiters wanted to serve the hippies. My dad said, I have no problem with the hippies. Hippies are fine for me. I serve the hippies. So I sat them down. They start ordering champagne, oysters, lobsters. We had 5 waiters, one in the bathroom, one in the exit, one in the other exit, watching these guys. And then the bill came. And then they gave, back then, a $400 tip. $400, and you know who it was, Pira? It was Zed Leplin. Zed Leplin, the band. So that was my dad. Super, like, I'd like to think I'm a lot like him, like very happy-go-lucky and kind of easygoing and positive. And, you know, he also took down the guy from, what's it called? Mission Impossible, the movie, you know, back in the 70s, right?
Okay.
There was like the strongman. My
So
dad.
not the Tom Cruise franchise.
No, not that guy.
Okay,
No.
yeah.
But although you could take down Tom Cruise, you beat him in
Yeah.
arm wrestling at the restaurant. There was like a huge show, and you know, I don't know, this guy was feeling strong, and my dad had to, you know, put him back in his place. So,
Dude, that's awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome. I wonder what he would have said to you before you came on to this interview. Like if you called him like, hey, Dad, I'm going for an interview.
yeah.
What would you do?
You know, he wasn't one for show, really. My dad was super like, you know, he didn't really care about public approbation. You know, he lived his life by a certain way, very, you know, humble, very low key. He pumped his own gas, right? He never flew business class. He didn't want the fame and the glory and all that stuff. For him, it was about the work and his kids, who he was utterly, you know, committed to. Right, he got a lot of satisfaction from doing and achieving, and I feel like I'm that too. I'm a little bit more maybe, I don't know, loquacious and a little bit more, you know, out there. But I think I have to do that a little bit because of my job and stuff.
Yeah, don't we all? Everyone is a media personality now,
Yeah.
so whether they like it or not. But considering the legacy and your father's influence, obviously you've told me things that you carry along with you. But have there been things that that you have chosen to live a different life than him in certain ways, or some of his advices that you can safely ignore now that you're now a man yourself and leading your own family?
Well, the first piece of advice I didn't listen to was come to Dubai. You know, so I think it's very common here, like with especially South Asian families. You have the first generation that builds the business. And if you're the first son, which I am, right, you don't have a choice. You have to, you know, inherit, you know, the kingdom and hopefully not mess it up, right? At a minimum, maintain. So that was kind of the expectation with my father, right? Like the expectation from his end was like, you know, I built this for you, Peter, right? That's not true. Right? He built it for himself. Of course, I still reap the benefits. I reap the benefits. But I think his mentality was, you know, I'm doing all of this, you know, to set you up so you can take it to the next level. And I wasn't really about that, you know. In fact, my father and I worked with him for 6 years. I learned a lot, but probably after 2 years, I stopped learning. But we were just so similar in personalities, right? I had my own ambitions, right? I went to a foreign country and created something, right? It was never going to work out. It could never be in his shadow. I had to leave a whole continent to get out of his shadow, right? And once I left, you know, actually our relationship improved and I got his respect before he died. So for me, that was the ultimate achievement, right? To get respect from my father before he passed away. All my degrees and academic achievements and everything didn't matter, right? Because he didn't understand. It's not a bad thing, right? You're talking about an uneducated person. How can he understand graduating first in your class at Harvard?
Can't fully appreciate.
No, and that's okay. That's cool. He came from a different generation, different time, different place, right? But once he found out, like, I was successful in business, right? How much money, I was pulling in.
Yeah.
Pira, what are you doing over there? Selling drugs? That's not
in the Middle East. Yeah, that's really, really lucrative.
Yeah, pretty short, career span there.
Yeah.
But no, that for me meant a lot because, again, he gave so much to me. He shaped me. He gave me the tools, right?
Yeah.
But again, most importantly, and like what I want to give to my kids is a value system. Right. And I see that lacking so much now because I obviously deal with teenagers like all the time through Hale. But it's like you have to leave some values. That's the legacy, right? You need to leave some tools. And I think, having this entitlement and these excuses, that's just not part of my world at all. And it never was. Yeah. My dad always told me, like, you're going to do something. Yeah, you're going to succeed if you want to, right? Oh, I did this. And of course, that's what you should have done. And that was great. Yeah, that's what I came to do, man. I came to win. I came to go and be the best I could be. Now, obviously, I can't do everything, but if I'm going to put my mind to something and I give 100%, then I've won. Yeah. Right? I don't need a shiny star for that.
Of course. And something you brought up earlier too, and Alina and I talk about this as we build our business. And you were right about that South Asian mentality of like passing the business down. Yeah. And we look at our business, be like, I don't even have kids yet, but I can't be building it for them. But what if they want something else? Yeah, because we have enough stories of people depressingly taking on a family business, living under the shadow of this, the grandfather that started it or the father that started it. And they went and got, through the rebellion, the act of rebellion was getting degrees in something completely different.
And pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Like one of my best friends, his father ran a company that was a middleman or broker for all the equipment you use in the oil fields. And he went and got a CFA, a finance degree, works in investment banking. Yeah, completely different. Just as an act of rebellion, like, I don't want your thing. Even though he's the eldest son and he's supposed to take it. And after his father's passing, he had to kind of take it just to keep his legacy running. But it's not that he's jumping into it, and we can't sit here and predict. Your kids are 6 and 4 now. Like there's so much time between now and then. Yeah, what if my kid wants to be a musician? Yeah. I might stop them actually. Because I am a bedroom musician myself.
There you go.
I would not make that a career just because you got to keep a hobby and keep a business, right? Otherwise, you mix both of those things and it gets a little messy.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it was a little different, but we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later in terms of, the business versus doing what you love. Yeah. And when we talk about children, like for me, people are like, oh, your kids are probably going to go to Harvard or this. I'm like, I don't care. Like my parents, I was so blessed.
Wait, there's no pressure on them to go to Harvard?
No, zero. Negative pressure. No, absolutely not. No. My parents had no expectations of me, like where to go to university. My sister went to Northeastern, God bless her. It's a good school. Back 20 years ago, it wasn't quite as competitive as it is to get into now. But I was just left to my own devices, right? Yeah. Like I was supported. Whenever there was a request for support for education, my dad was there to support me, right? He put me in a fancy private school when I was in 8th grade. I was taking classes at Harvard after school. I would go 10th, 11th grade, take the T, right, the subway from my high school to Harvard to take classes in the evenings, right? And he would come pick me up like 9:30 p.m. at night. This is a man that's working, 12, 14 hours a day, right? And drive 40 minutes to pick me up from the train station to bring me back. I want to go to this summer program. Absolutely, like no question, right? So then it's like, okay, it was natural for me, right? For my kids, maybe they won't want to do that. If they don't, that's fine with me. They can go to community college, right? It's all right.
Trades college,
whatever they want. No, I don't believe in that. I know that's my.
But I'm in line with you. It's the values and the wisdom. So the talks Alina and I have are like, can we at least have a system of beliefs and thoughts?
Yes.
That we can pass on, and they can do with it whatever they want.
Absolutely.
Because you said reading, doing, and then observation. Yeah. Right? So the observation part is on them. Yeah. But we can help them with the reading. We can guide them with the doing. But the observation is going to come on their own. So there's a missing factor that we can't predict. Yeah. So let them kind of do that. I have a couple of follow questions, but I'm really curious to see what's behind door number 2.
Okay.
If you want to see it too.
Let's see. Oh. Can I keep that? Is that for me? Can I take that to go?
I think I should be asking you that. So for those that can't see and listening on audio, I've got 500 dirhams on me. So for all your successes, moving to Dubai and going to Oxford and Harvard and UCLA, not every superhero, like everyone has a kryptonite moment. Yeah. At some point you were more like Clark Kent
Yeah.
than Superman, or you were more like Peter Parker than Spider-Man.
100%.
And you were down to your last 500 dirhams.
Yeah, that was it.
True or not true?
100%
So
true.
around about $100. What happened?
Oh
what happened
my
there?
God, geez. Well, it's so funny. I think when you get into entrepreneurship, especially in the early years, you have no idea what you're getting into. I know that the CEO of NVIDIA, who's worth $43 billion.
Only.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Did you hear about what he said recently? He said if I could do it all again.
He wouldn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I was really deep in the trenches and, fighting fires constantly and put the blinders on, right? In terms of, no, everything will be okay. Power of manifestation was so popular now. Mm-hmm. But I just got to a point where literally I had run out of cash. Okay, like that's it. Credit cards maxed out, no cash on hand. Definitely not going to ask my dad, for like some kind of loan because he's been waiting this whole time. Peter, I told you this was a stupid fucking idea. Definitely not going to make that call because then I would have just like ended, by I would have had no self-respect after that. So long story short, it just got to a point where I realized like, dude, I'm not going to be able to cover payroll, this month. Like, what do I do? Now, luckily, God has blessed me by putting amazing people in my life, and this has happened 6 times, 7 times, at very critical moments. And I really believe, that didn't happen by chance. So at that point, I was dating Madalena, who is now my wife and mother of my children. We were living together in a 1-bedroom crappy apartment in Sports City. I had poured all my money into the business. Paint was peeling off the walls, all of that. Me, Madalena, and the cat, Mr. Tassos. Very crowded space. And then I'm like, God, Jesus, what am I going to do? So Madalena was a flight attendant at that time. And, flight attendants, they call you 5 times a day for like personal loans, right? No one believed in my business up until that point. No one, not a single person. Everybody was telling me how stupid I was. My dad was telling me, come back. When are you going to get serious about your life? No one thought it was a great idea, right? But Madalena, we were dating. We weren't even engaged. God bless her, offered. I was too proud to ask. I couldn't do it. She's like, I will help you. And I said, well, wow. I said, okay, thank you. And she loaned me 150,000 dirhams, right? She got a personal loan, loaned it to me. And it wasn't just the money. Like somehow I would have figured out the money part. I don't know, somehow. But it was like that person believed in me and thought like, this business was a good idea and that I would succeed. And I swear to God, from that moment onwards, like it hasn't been a linear, trajectory, but it's been like this. It was pivotal, transformational. If you come to my house, I have a copy of the check framed, right on our mantle to never forget. That's actually next to a picture of my dad, 12 years old, working in this newsstand. Because that's, it just took that one person to believe in me. And she's my rock. Obviously, I had to marry her after that, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good deal.
Yeah, no, it was a great deal. She, we got engaged shortly after. I went to go visit her family in Romania. Got a feel for the dynamics of the family. Absolutely loving, the most caring people, and made the best decision of my life, which was to get married to Mads and 2 beautiful children. Super blessed, and she's still my number one supporter. And Greeks have a long memory, thousands of years, but for me, I'll never forget. Sometimes like on my birthday, what I do is I go and drive around to my old apartments, my first office.
Yeah, I do that too. In Sports City, I had a 1-bedroom, crappy kind of thing, just to like remind yourself, right? Sometimes you're like,
Bro, I was in the elevator in my apartment in Sports City.
Which building?
Hub Canal.
Okay.
There was a dude smoking in the elevator. Not outside the elevator, in the freaking elevator. I was so shocked, I didn't even know what to say. I'm like, God, I was like flabbergasted.
Dude, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Like for example, when you start living in places like Sports City, it does something to your fucking mind, right? Because you see, when you're driving to your place, you see ghost buildings.
Yeah.
These are like 10-story concrete towers with no cranes. They've just been abandoned. Not one of them. There's 20 of them en route to home. So you feel like you're living in a dead city. And then people smoking in the elevator.
Well, I was looking for the canal. There's no water in the canal. Why they call
There's no
canal?
water. There's a waterless canal. It does something to your mind, and that was like our first year here in Dubai when we left Canada to come here. We didn't have the opportunity that we thought we would right away, and it was all about just stretching as much as you can, but keeping I think the things that Mads did for you, in the investing world, we call that belief capital, right?
Oh, nice.
So like you don't look at financials, you don't look at like business plans, you don't look at market trends.
Yeah.
You believe in the person and you give them money.
Yeah.
When you make investments. And that's my preferred way of investments. If I know you and I've seen you do something good and I trust you, you're a good person, here's the money for your business, and then now we're partners, that kind of thing. And not a lot of people, like it's so easy to think about like, oh, we can just raise money. Like you can just find money.
Yeah.
What you really need is first belief capital.
100%. Yeah.
How did it feel? Because the way you're mentioning it, you were too proud to ask.
Yeah.
If you're too proud to ask, Mads, you're probably too proud to ask. Your dad, you're probably too proud.
That was the last person I'll call. Absolutely not.
What does it feel like when you agreed? Like, yes, I'll take your
Relieved.
help? Were you in
I don't
tears?
know. It's incredible because again, you're in a pretty hopeless situation. But I'll tell you what, you know, you have to be pushed to the edge of the abyss to know what you're made of, right? Do you fall into the abyss, or you're going to take a step back?
Yeah.
So that was the abyss for me. But I just needed a little bit of a nudge back, and that's what Madalena gave me.
Yeah.
And again, it was that affirmation. You know, now I'm everyone's favorite cousin, nephew, you know, whatever, uncle. You know, everyone's telling me how smart I am, but. Man, back then it could have gone either way, right? But it was that belief. But you know, I'll tell you something. I paid her back in 3 months.
Love it.
With interest, of course. Yeah.
But the interest went to the bank.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
She got a ring out of it.
Yeah, eventually, yeah. It's a good long-term investment.
If you could go back and give your 500 dirham self any advice, do you think you could have done something differently, or would you play it out the same way?
Absolutely not. I mean, it's part of the journey. Look, how many models I made and how you know, plans and all. Life is chaos, right? And life is about what happens, not what happens to you, how you react. So I could have planned better, I've done this and that, but I did everything I could. But I just found myself in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, given the tools and the circumstances, I didn't know what else to do. But again, it was a temporary situation, and things really did well. You know, they kind of took off afterwards. So.
And I think you've also benefited from empathy of, you know, before these things happen to you, when someone's down on their luck, you don't say they're down on their luck. Your first thought, or my first thought used to be, they're incompetent.
Yeah.
Or they fucked up somewhere.
Yeah.
Or they thought they were so smart. They had it coming to them.
Yeah.
And once you go through an instance or two of these in your own life, you start to get a lot more empathy for someone who's down. Financially, for example.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? There's 100 million things that could have caused that.
Yes.
And maybe none of them was that person's own fault, or it's just the circumstances.
Yeah.
And as you said last night, actually, I'm going through a pretty challenging period right now in terms of managing time. I've taken on too much, and I'm compromising on quality of the work that I'm doing just because I'm doing a lot, because my previous self told me you could do it. And I was just pacing up and down my living room after I'd done preparing for this conversation, pacing up and down, and I suddenly stopped. And I told myself, like, this struggle, that what I'm feeling right now, this tightness in my chest, these muscles contracting, this is what has made me in the past.
Yes.
It's moments like these. And you mentioned life shouldn't be easy.
No, it shouldn't.
And I had a smile come to my face last night when I was like, oh, it's one of those fucking moments again. Like, oh shit, this is what growth feels like. It feels really uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like your throat starts getting itchy. Your body starts manifesting your own stress in so many different ways, right? And on top of that, if you don't have salaries to pay, right? And for some reason, I don't know if this happens to you, but when shit goes south, it goes south in all directions for me. My personal life, my business life, my friends' life, like everything starts happening at the same time.
It's hard to fight a war on multiple fronts, I'll tell you that.
Right?
Like if you got a, you know, stable home life like I do, thank God, I can go fight the world, you know. But if personal, right, like say my health suffers, or then I have a problem, you know, with my family, and then I have work problems, very tough to deal with. But you know, pressure makes diamonds, my friend. Turns carbon into diamonds.
But you don't know that in the moment. And if there's just enough reminders, like if you read enough history, or if you read enough of your own history, for example, if you've crossed a certain age and you've had some life experiences, and some people have them young, some people have them much later, some people are too coddled by life and then they get there. Like I had there's a quote by Naval Ravikant. I don't know if you know this guy, Silicon Valley guy. Founder, VC, etc. He says, I hope you have your failures early. Whether in business or in life, he says, I hope you have them early. Because there's no better teacher for you. But talking about failures, challenges, it's very easy to go back and think about what happened before and retrospectively analyze and do the post-match analysis, if you will.
Yeah.
What's keeping you up at night these days? Like,
I got 4 cats in my house.
4?
It's crazy. Yeah. And I got one that's a really
Tassels 1, Tassels 2, Tassels 3, Tassels 4.
Snow Queen, Snow Junior, Cindy, and Fluffy. So we had this, the most beautiful cat, but quite raggedy. She came to our house about a year ago, and her tail was like dead, and I don't know. She was beautiful, like very white and just elegant and regal. And she came to our house. I'm like, asked Madeleine, I'm like, did you adopt a new cat? She's like, no. I'm like, whose cat is that? She's like, I don't know. So she took it outside. Then she kept coming back, and then like, Mads, I think this cat is pregnant. And she's like, oh, maybe she is. Let me take her to the doctor. Long story short, that was Snow Queen. Snow Queen gave birth to kittens, and the kids won't let me give away the kittens. We gave away one, but who's now named J-Lo. But anyways, we had 4 cats, so I'm not even joking. Like, God bless, like I'm in a really good place, and I don't worry too much about things right now. Like I got my health in order. I got my priorities straight. I've got my family. Business is going well, so what should I be up about?
Yeah, that's nice, man.
Yeah.
That's nice. I mean, maybe there's confidential stuff you're not sharing with you, but I'll get
not
it
really.
out of you.
No, I can't really say that anything is really worrying me, to be honest with you.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Sometimes I like to jam with people on the show about a certain thing that they're going through and kind of help them jam it out, because sometimes you need to say it out loud.
If you asked me a year ago, it'd be a whole different set of answers. But now it's a year later. It's 2023.
Yeah. Well, hello, everyone. I want to take a moment to share something that's really, really close to my heart. As you know, this podcast isn't just a series of episodes. It's you and I getting mentored by the wisest of the wisest. Each episode is crafted with care, aiming to bring not just stories, but wisdom and insight into the fascinating and sometimes lonely world of entrepreneurship. This is more than just a podcast. It's a personal mentorship session recorded on camera for all of us to learn and grow together. And this is where you come in. If any episode has resonated with you, your subscription or your vote means the world to me. Every subscription lights a fire inside of me and fuels me to keep delivering content that I wish had existed before I started this podcast 2 years ago. So I humbly ask for your support. Please hit pause now and find that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to this. It's a small action for you, but it means everything to me. Thank you for being a part of this community and for your support and for choosing to walk this path with me. Stay curious and stay inspired. Thank you so much. Let's go back a year then.
Yeah.
What was keeping you up at night? I want to see your method of solving problems, because what I'm gaining from this conversation and my research is our values are pretty similar.
Yeah.
The things that you're attracted to, for example, even having family values over everything else.
Yeah.
And just the way you have this doggedness about if I really want something, if I put my mind to it, it'll happen. It'll fucking happen, right? So what's your nature of problem solving? Like, are there levels to it? Does it start with despair? Then does it go into a spiral? And you're like, no, fuck, get up.
Well, it starts with denial. I'd say, no, it's not really that big of a problem until it goes, really south. And you're like, oh, well, I'm actually in a shitstorm. Yeah. No, for me, it's interesting. Again, going back to certain people being placed in my life at critical times. About a year ago, through my EO mentor, right, who's one of the most important EO accelerator mentor, excuse me. So I was the first accelerator in the UAE to graduate from that program into the main, group. And I was blessed to have the guidance and support of Matthew Mazavanturi, shout out Matthew, who I was just speaking with last night, who was always available to me and always, he's a hero of mine. Also, similar story of, he grew up in Kerala. No formal education, went to go work on the ships. Then he ended up going to Oxford, getting a business degree and an engineering degree concurrently, right? Wow. And then he launched a very successful oil and gas consultancy, which he sold for a ton of money. So he's like one of my heroes. Wow. Long story short, I was going through a lot of things. And Matthew introduced me to my Guruji, my other, Indian godfather, Rishi Srivastava, who is a master of processes and planning and the sharpest business mind that I've ever met, hands down. End of discussion. And so, long story short, Rishi came in and bought 20% of Hale. Okay, and he provided more than, it wasn't about the money. It was just about how can I really, organize things, streamline, do things properly, and take it to the next level. So once I know my faults, right? I know my strengths, but I know my faults. I'm not good with, finance. I'm not good with, strategy. I'm not good with process, right? I'm a very emotionally intelligent, kind of intellectual type of person, right? I'm a people person, right? He's a numbers process guy, very, engineering oriented. So it was a very, very fantastic synergy. And, through his support, I have come to the point now where I'm just like, tag team, we got this. Yeah. So that was a big, big difference and best business decision I ever made.
That's nice.
Hands
so
down.
Would it be fair to say you're more of the product-minded business person? Like you get your product and service really well.
Yeah.
And you're really deep into it. And you'd rather be in that and improving that delivery and getting students out to their dream places.
Yeah.
Versus the whole like managing of the business. Like out of all the hats you can wear in the business, that would be your favorite hat. Like,
my favorite thing to do is just meet with the kids.
Yeah.
You know how much satisfaction we talk about metrics for success, right? For me, my metrics are, the smile I see on my kid's face after I sit with them for 45 minutes. The eyes light up and like, something goes off, little light bulb. Wow, that's a great idea, right? And I see, we work maybe like on an essay together and just the transformation, and that makes me happy. That's why I do what I do, right? Like if I could just meet with kids 100% of the time, and maybe I will at some point, right? That's why I got into this. When I started this business more than 11 years ago, I was doing everything. I didn't have any employees though, right? It was just about the kids, the counseling, right? That's what gives me the greatest gratification, to feel like I played some part in their journey, to see the growth. I have kids now that I helped when they were 14. One student recently, she was at Greenfield School, went to Penn for her undergrad, now helped her get into Columbia Law School. I've seen her grow up into a confident, intelligent, young woman who's just, I remember her with the braces and like, the acne and stuff like that's amazing. And
she Future Angela Merkel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But no, it's like, she comes back and it's amazing to feel like, I played a role there. And then again, I go back to my own life and I think about education. Other than my family, going to Johns Hopkins, was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah.
Right. The people there, I still talk to my professors 25 years later. I have lunch with them every year when I go back. Right. They remember me. It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So I'm doing that obviously on a different level, but that's what keeps me going.
Yeah.
The pure joy, right? And I wish I could do more of it and do it exclusively, but maybe I will. Maybe I'll structure things in that way.
Well, that's the thing. So we don't come from, like I sent you a primer yesterday. We don't come from like a family of business people, right? There's always these dreamers in my family though, right?
Yeah.
They think they want to do business.
Yeah.
Right. So the baker wants to open a bakery, the tailor wants to open a clothing store. Those are two very different things, right? And I'd say Alina's a little bit more synonymous with you. So in our digital agency, she loves working with the clients, talking to them every day, getting them the results that they're looking for, delving deeper, getting technical, getting philosophical about marketing. She loves that part. And she got our business started actually as a freelancer. So she was taking on clients by herself.
Yeah.
And I still had a job at that point, right? And the backstory is that it was growing more than she wanted it to grow. She was getting very successful, but I came in, like I don't spend too much time on the day-to-day, the taking care of the clients, or in your case, the students. But I came in as, okay, I don't have experience doing this, but I think I like the strategy.
Yeah.
I know the numbers because I've done a finance degree, worked in the finance career for like 7 years. I can keep the books, I can work out the pricing and the margins, and I've been in sales forever. I'm just a sales guy since the age of 16. And I said, okay, so those synergies that you're looking for with Rishi, Sri Vastava, working on my names and my memory. But yeah, we caught that synergy too. So till today, she's still in the depths looking after every client. Marwan can attest to that. She's just OCD with everything to do with clients. She's on every email, every WhatsApp, every meeting. And then quietly in the background, I'm trying to build these systems, these processes for scaling. Okay, when we get to X revenue, these are the processes. This is our barrier when things break. This is the next level that we get to, which means more overheads, more systems, more processes, and that's good for a certain level. And I enjoy that. And I think that's really important to have in business. People were thinking like, oh, I can bake a cake. Maybe I should open a bakery. No.
Yeah.
do not do that.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it. My mom tried that. So my mom tried, she's a really good cook. She moved to Pakistan. She opened a Facebook page.
Okay.
And she's like, I'll do catering
Yeah.
for people in my neighborhood. All she did was like making the food.
Yeah.
But then it gets complicated because you have to price the food.
Yeah.
And that means you have to buy supplies in accordance with your pricing.
Yep.
And then you need to have things fresh and ready at that time. Also, you need to market yourself.
Yeah.
People need to know about you. Also, people are going to call and complain.
Yeah.
You need to have customer support. And she's 2 months. It took her 2 months. She's like, fuck this. I'm out. She closed the Facebook page. She's like, I just wanted to cook.
Yeah.
I just wanted to cook for people. But running a business is much more than just making that product, right?
Yeah, and I think you see so many obviously successful businesses, and there's two, kind of co-founders, a creative mind and then the technical mind or whatever.
Yeah.
I didn't start out like that, but I know that I'm benefiting from that symbiotic relationship now that's complementary to the business.
Yeah.
100%.
Tell me,
I can focus on what I want to be doing,
where
I can add the most value.
That's a goal.
I'm not good at like approving, leave requests and, calculating gratuity. Put a spreadsheet in front of me, man, forget it. Like I understand basic finance, but not the 18.
See, fun guys like you and fun girls like Alina need boring people like you.
Yeah.
Like, contracts.
Yeah,
I
yin and
can't
yang.
wait to write the
go.
legalese for it. You also mentioned in your email before coming, what did you say? I think I've written that. It said, the importance of having layers to your self-definition.
Oh, yeah, that's huge.
Beyond being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Oh, my God. It's so interesting to me because I think, again, I'm going to speak about my personal opinions, right? My personal views. Half the entrepreneurs I know that have exited, that have, achieved that, pot of gold or have gone to the end of the rainbow and found the pot of gold. Yeah. Half of them fall apart after they sell. Right? Because they're so wrapped up in the business and the identity of business, and even they got a huge payout, then they just didn't know what to do with themselves because that was the only aspect to their personality. That's what defined them. For me, that's not the case, right? I have lots of layers to who I am. I'm a learner, first and foremost, right? I love to learn. Now I'm doing advanced scuba training. So basically with scuba certifications, you have levels. Mm-hmm. You have recreational diving. You start at open water, then advanced open water, then rescue diver.
Is it like yellow belt, black belt?
Pretty much, yeah,
Okay.
exactly, yeah. So now the black belt is a master scuba diver, and like 2% of all divers get to master, right? So now I've gone to the black belt with the stripes, which is the technical diving. You got like a twin set on your back, you get deco tanks, strapped to your chest. Like that's a fraction of 1% of divers. And man, if getting that open water certification was like a high school degree, this is a PhD. It's so much chemistry and this and that. Oh my God! But I love that. That is part of my identity. Mm-hmm. I know that at some point, maybe I promised to myself by the time I turn 50, right? There is a 1-year master's degree program in Greek archaeology and Near Eastern archaeology in the University of Athens, taught in English. I will complete that course, 100%. Like I have to do it because I'm just so drawn to it. One of my heroes, again, my heroes are not really Bill Gates and Richard Branson and those types of people. One of my heroes is Heinrich Schliemann, all right? He was a German novice amateur archaeologist. He made a ton of money in business, and he told the whole world, I'm going to go discover Troy, right? Troy is, the Iliad, the Odyssey. It was a mythical place. Everyone thought he was crazy. It doesn't exist. He actually went and discovered Troy. He used his money to go and unearth, some of the treasures of the world, right? That's like, kind of like, again, he's a role model. Mm-hmm. I would like to go do this master in archaeology degree. I would like to fund my own dig, right? And I would like to go spend, 6-12 months digging up old stuff. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm an athlete, right? I'm a learner. My family is everything 99 times out of 100. If I'm going to spend time with someone, I'll choose to spend it with my family, okay? Because I love my kids. I know everybody loves their kids, right? But I spend all my time with my kids that I have. It's a joy to drive them to school. It's a joy to bring my son to the WSX motocross championship. It's amazing. These are just like so cool. I remember my dad, he brought me to WWF, Royal Rumble back in Boston. We used to go to Celtics games all the time, Bruins games. We loved the Bruins, the hockey games. It was just, those are like what made my childhood. I don't know, I have a good number of friends. So like for me, it's like, yes, I am who I am. It's also interesting because so many people think they define me by my education. Oh, that's the guy, he went to Harvard and this and that, and he went to Oxford. And the education helped define me, but it doesn't exclusively define me, right? And that was a long time ago. The dudes who are sitting at the bar still talking about, I went to Harvard, and they drop that in the first 2 minutes after they sink their beer. They're not the winners, right? That was part of their journey. I would have been the same guy. Now, I wouldn't have access to the same people and resources, but it was a vehicle for me, right? I don't hang my hat on that. I don't tell people that ever, like unless it comes up, you know? I'm not a snob. It's also interesting because so many people think, oh, you have all these fancy degrees. I'm not an intellectual snob at all. Like my dad finished elementary school, one of the sharpest minds I've ever met, you know? You don't define somebody by where they went to school. At Harvard, I met some of the stupidest people I ever met, hands down, straight. Like, well, how did this guy get into community college? Right? There were some brilliant ones too, but so many people define themselves by their education. I think that's pretty shallow and lame.
It's very true in the South Asian world, for sure. It's like the only advice you get is like get educated, get a job, and your profession that defines you. Because, not to knock on them. Maybe life, the circumstances that my dad's generation had there in their life, like my dad had a similar journey to your father, like leaving town, getting on a ship. Like he had a crazy story. Like his dad passed away when he was 17. He became then the sole provider of the family. He had younger brothers, but they weren't like very helpful at the time. And he just took off. He was in like somewhere in the middle of Pakistan, ended up in Afghanistan selling pearls.
Wow.
From there, moved on to Iran selling clothes. From there, went all the way south to Karachi, the port city. Got on a random ship one day because his buddy said, hey, there's this place called Sharjah. This is 1971. Place called Sharjah. We hear there's jobs there. My dad's like, Sharjah, is that somewhere in Pakistan? Okay, let's get on the ship.
Amazing.
Gets on the bunker, like the engine room with his buddies because they're smuggling themselves. Ship docks in Sharjah, and there's guard dogs like pacing around looking for smuggled goods or whatnot, and then they're just hiding in the steam room, getting burned for like 6 hours, and getting out there like, hey, we're here. What do we do now?
Yeah.
And then they said like there's a mosque nearby. We can hear it. Let's go to the mosque. They go to the mosque. They have a prayer. And the imam that's leading the prayer, after the prayer, looks back and he's like, you guys aren't from here. I can tell you, because there's not a lot of people here, right? So he had like a ton of stories like that. And that was his life. Like,
amazing.
Go do the profession thing. Like, that's your life. That's just it. Like, get married, have kids, but like, make the money so that your kids can have an education. That's your sole purpose in life. And I was smiling while you were talking about your perception of this is because it's kind of vindication for me.
Yeah.
The question I've asked myself and Alina a lot over these last 4 years is what defines me has always come in 7 different categories. Similar to you, I've got the athlete side to me, playing football 3 times a week and taking care of health. Then I've got the family man side of me, which is my nuclear family, me and Alina, and then nieces, nephews, brothers, sisters, and everyone. Then I've got the learner side of me. That's just a complete geek. And then I've got all these categories of how I perceive or how all the different names I've given to my different egos.
Oh, okay.
Right. And they've always told me, and by they, I mean what I hear in the media, I guess, or people, is that you need to make heavy sacrifices on your own personality to be successful in business. Which has sounded like horseshit to me intuitively. And I've resisted for a long time, albeit at the cost of grand success in business. And I can attribute 100% losses in business because I try to keep a balanced life. Which is the question that I ask a lot on this podcast is like, do you have to pay the price to be successful? Like burn out, do the things that are against your nature, pull in the extra hours, do whatever it takes mentality, go win, and then find out what to do with your life. And my thing has always been the opposite. I'm like, what if I do everything like to a good level so that I can be completely balanced? And what you get told in the media is like, no, money metrics. The only metrics that matter are the money metrics. I don't care how many times you play football. I don't care how deep your relationships are. I don't care if your wife's your best friend yet or if she's just someone that lives at your place. So help other people. I like your opinion about this because I want other people to talk about this. It's not. How do you promote a balanced life anymore? I don't hear about that.
I think again,
as an entrepreneur, especially, right?
So
you should be learning. Even if you're learning, you're learning to improve your business. Can't we just fucking learn for the sake of learning?
Yeah, exactly. I'd rather be scuba diving than going to
like how does that fit in
finance
Hale
class.
Education, right? Scuba diving.
So for me, it's so interesting because recently, I'm a very goal-oriented person. I like a clear goal, and I want to achieve it in a certain, time frame, and then I take the steps on how to do that.
Yeah.
Right? But then what I did recently was I put together a spreadsheet in terms of my metrics for success. Success, personal success. There are 7 metrics there: family life, personal health, personal financial health, company financial health, peace of mind, business trajectory, etc.
Yeah.
And I assign them a 1 to 5 score.
Yeah.
And then I add up the numbers, and that's how I know if I'm doing well.
I like that.
That's it.
I've actually planned on starting something similar.
Yeah.
I'm going to do a 1 to 10, but I can't pick 7.
Okay.
How often do you do it? Do you do it daily, weekly,
Once a
monthly?
month.
Once a month. Okay.
How am I feeling right now about all of these things? Physical health, 5. Peace of mind, 5, right?
Yeah.
Business trajectory, 4, right?
And it's just intuitive, like whatever comes to mind, the number, right?
Because I know where I am on each of these things. And then sometimes I think, it's very human to start to think, am I doing well, right? I don't really compare myself to other people. Never have and probably never will. But my mentor, posed a question to me the other day. And sometimes we have to take, stock of, our reference points, our peers.
Yeah.
He says, Peter, do me a favor. Find someone your age that's more successful than you based on your metrics of success. Of course, there are people with more money. There are people this, that. And go have a coffee with them. I couldn't come up with a single name. I couldn't come up with one single name. Are there people with tons more money? 100%. Do they have the freedom that I do? Do they have the family life? Do they have the opportunity to work out, 9 times a week, right? To go scuba diving for a day and not worry about it, to go on vacation for a month to Greece and the office doesn't collapse, while I'm in, a Greek island in the Aegean? No. So I'm very fortunate, but it was a long road to get here, right? I've been doing this now over 11 years.
So that long road to get here, like, is that road necessary? Or the question, I guess, is like, can you be that balance from the get-go and still find success in business?
I couldn't have been. I don't know about anybody else, but no. I mean, I was working like a dog. Like at one time I worked 30 days in a row and got sick, like 30 days, like straight, no breaks.
Yeah.
Again, my journey is different from everybody else's, but self-funded, bootstrapping. It took me 4 months to make 10,000 dirhams. The first year I was in business, I didn't make 70. That's not, I had savings, burned through them like, man, house on fire.
Yeah.
Forget about it. So I had to, I wasn't going to fail. I put my mind to do this. So it was very difficult. No, I wasn't going scuba diving and going to Greece and doing all that stuff back then. No. Yeah. But now I am.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if I should then aim to be the case study for the guy.
Yeah, I'll come interview you. I'll interview you next time. We'll see how that works out.
I mean, I'm nowhere close to where I need to be in terms of my averages for all these different areas. But like I tell Alina, and she tells me like, no, listen, everyone I've talked to, they always go through this period where life is shit for a ton of years, and they put everything into it, and they gain weight and they lose friendships and stuff like that. But I'm just like, that price, it's a bit too high for me. And I challenged her. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be the laziest entrepreneur you've ever met that's made it. Yeah. And by lazy, I mean that in as a jest. Like I'll still work hard, but I'll try to be smart about it. Yeah. I'll see where that goes, but right now it's not looking good. But you
got to define your journey, and whatever's important to you is important, dude. That's the end of it. Like if you're going to be miserable and your health's going to suffer, and you're not going to have a life, and I think it's also age dependent too, right? Like at 44, I have a lot of different priorities than I did at 24, at 34. Yeah. So it's you got to define your journey. You got to be yourself.
Yeah. I think the word you mentioned there, life, like that's lost its value in general discourse, right? Like, what's your life? Yeah. And then people equate that to like, well, my profession. No. Like they start with that, like, who are you? Yeah. Well, I am this person. Yeah. For me, that's the most complicated answer. Like, who are you name? Yeah. I don't know how to answer. Yeah. Starting from having the same like kind of third culture mindset. Yeah. I don't even know where home is. Yeah. Forget who I am. Yeah. And I want that to be a measure of my success. Like, who are you? I don't know. Yeah. You can ask me a year from now, you can ask me a year before, but who I am currently, I'm currently this X, Y, Z, and that. But then again, anyone that I know who's financially successful has done that one thing and they've burnt out on their way to doing it. And then they reap the rewards later on. Not saying it's not worth it. Yeah. It's kind of like fame, I guess, right? Like once you get fame, you're chasing fame. What the fuck do you do when you get it? You realize you're
Run
trapped.
away from the paparazzi. That's it.
You're trapped.
You can't go to the gym or the mall.
You can't go get a coffee like a normal human being, right?
Yeah.
So I feel the same way with getting a ton of money suddenly.
Yeah.
Would be ridiculous. I wouldn't know what to do with it.
That's why all those NBA stars end up
They
broke.
go broke, right?
You know,
Right?
there was a guy, Antoine Walker. He made over $120 million. He used to wear a different tailored suit to every post-game conference.
Oh, God.
Right, wear it one time. Guy's broke as a joke right now, right?
Good.
Because you gotta, it's like build up through
Build up to it,
experiences. You can't just jump into, the pool of money like Scrooge McDuck, start swimming around in it and know what to do.
Well, money is also an amplifier, kind of like booze, right? Like it just amplifies what you already are.
Man, for me, I have, again, some very interesting mentors and friends.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even be able to conceive how much money they're worth. They're so quiet, understated, and not flashy, not with the big watch. They didn't roll up in the newest Lambo and whatever. Yeah. Those are the, what they say, money speaks, wealth whispers. Have you heard that?
I like that.
Yeah, it's so true. I guess in Dubai it's a little different, but here's a lot of noise. That's what I've learned is the people of substance, the truly successful on multiple levels, not just because they have tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars, right?
Yeah.
The guys that make the least amount of noise. The guys that make a lot of noise, and again, maybe they have the private jet and this. Family life is a total mess, right? Like this and that. You just see the tip of the iceberg.
100%. Like you read biographies of all of these tycoons, right? Like they are, at the end of the biographies, always, if it's autobiography, they always say, this is what I did. If you have a chance, don't do what I did.
Yeah.
Because I lost everything on the way.
Yeah.
And it's a cautionary tale.
Where are the books about the people who lost everything?
Yeah.
So for example, it's very interesting. In my own family, my dad had 7 brothers. All of them went into business. 3 of them ended up, completely, I don't want to say broke, but, they failed at the end of their lives. One was extremely successful. He received an award from the Prime Minister of Greece for his product, which was chocolates. That was no other Greek product had been exported to so many countries in the world, right? I think that record still stands, but ended up losing it all because he ended up expanding too quickly, right? Taking on too much debt, being too aggressive with acquisitions. Like for me, dude, like money comes and money goes. You can't define yourself. You're riding high one time, something happens, it can leave. And again, it's like, I don't know. My personal opinion is I'm the same, gritty Greek American street fighter. Before I went to Harvard, now whatever, I'll always be that guy. Now, if I have more money, great. Obviously, it's nicer to have more than less, but it doesn't define you, and you can't count on it being around, in perpetuity. Yeah. So,
well, you can get in a spiral too, right? Like when you get it, you want to keep it, and you do anything to keep it because you've kind of upgraded your life.
Yeah.
According to what you think the other people in your category have that.
Gotta put the blinders on there.
And, you got to be seen a certain way. You got to be...
Don't hang out with those people. No, thanks.
Welcome to Dubai.
No.
Right? Like, it's a city. It's not just Dubai now. I think it's YouTube too, right? Like, or all of Instagram. Man. It's all about... Like, no one is promoting... See, it's... why it's hard for me? Because I ended up choosing... a part of my career. So we can build the agency quietly in the background without raising too much fuss. But I can't do the podcast without raising a fuss. Like the whole fucking point of this thing is to get attention.
Yeah.
But I don't want it.
Yeah.
I want to have this. I want to have this conversare I want to have the WhatsApp conversation we had yesterday. Like those are things that give me the juice and the joy and everything else. But are you familiar with Tim Ferriss?
Yeah, for our work week, right?
So he wrote a blog post a couple of years ago. He says 11 reasons to not get famous or something like that. And he documented everything that is in his life that has gone wrong because he got famous.
Interesting.
And it's a cautionary article. Be like, you think you want it. Wait till you get it. This is what happened. It includes death threats and crazy stuff like fans turning violent and stuff. God. Yeah, it becomes really crazy. But then people that have chosen those careers like authors, podcasters and stuff like that, it's such a mind fuck.
Yeah.
Because that one part of you wants to stay quietly and do this. Yeah. But the other part, to make it work, it requires attention of the market. And it requires you to be, a bit more open and talk about yourself and be vulnerable and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I got to find a way to balance that. And even with businesses, right? I'd say pretty active on LinkedIn. You got to be, right? Like you
Yeah.
post articles about like, hey, number of admissions have gone up year over year. You're attracting envy at the same time. But you got to do that because people have to hear about and legitimize, well, this is not one of those illegitimate agencies that promises people to send to Harvard and stuff and takes their money and runs away.
You know what's interesting? You're saying that like the kids who get into the Stanfords and Harvards and MITs, you know, they garner the most attention, right? But the kids whose lives, those kids are going to be okay. Maybe they go to Cornell instead of Harvard, right? Or maybe they go to, I don't know, Dartmouth instead of MIT. But the kids that I'm most proud of, the kids who are in really, really difficult situations, you know, disciplinary problems. Kid got drunk, stole his dad's car on his birthday, crashed it, got arrested. Now has to explain that to the admissions after he submitted his applications. Has to explain that to the admissions office. Kids who failed out, kids who were sent to universities or colleges in the middle of nowhere. Smart kids just ended up at the wrong place. Help them transfer. You know, go to a great university, graduated summa cum laude, 3.8. You know. Parents were questioning, you know, does this kid have what it takes? I'm going to bring them back here and put them in the American University of Sharjah. Like, those kids are never going to make the headlines, right? But those are the kids that, you know, I'm most proud of. They will never be in those articles. That gives me a lot of personal satisfaction. In regards to, you know, kind of like how we do things, you know, I'm someone who doesn't sell dreams. Like, I'm a very straight talker and I don't, you know, make promises I don't keep. So I won't tell people what they want to hear, right? I'm coming to you because I'm going to apply to only the Ivy League schools. I'm like, well, I'm not your guy, right? That's contrary to my value system. I say no to people all the time for business because if we are not aligned on how we're going to do this, you're better off going somewhere else. There are other people that will make stuff up, like fabricate, you know, experiences and awards and, you know, not interested. I will never for $1 sacrifice who I am. I look in the mirror every night, every morning, very proud of who I see. If you sell your soul for anything, like I will not damage my integrity for any amount of money. Doesn't matter, right? So again, it just comes down to what's important to you. And you talk about these people, you know, the dude who rolled up in the freaking, you know, Ferrari Roma might be renting his 2-bedroom apartment. You know, is he successful, right? Because he's got a number plate with 3 numbers. I've been exposed to so many interesting people. Really successful people. Like what you see is not really, you know, always what's behind the scenes.
And that's also a difference between growing up here and growing up in North America for us. Like this is something you got to be careful about your kids, right? Like when we were raised here, there's certain sects of the economy or factions of the society that we don't see at all. Right. When I got my first part-time job in Canada in university in the back of a Popeyes, fried chicken.
Hell yeah. Chicken sandwich.
Getting paid in cash. Like kids don't have that experience here, right? And because of those experiences, you interact with a level of society that you may not usually do in your family circle, let's say, in all kind of varieties. And you start noticing happiness levels. They're the fucking same throughout. Sad people are going to be sad people with or without money. Happy people are going to be happy people with or without money. People are satisfied with their purpose and their passion are okay with less money and with high money too. Like it's not mutually exclusive. Like you and you start noticing those things. You don't notice that here. And Alina and I read a book. This is before we started our business. It was by the Blanchards. It's not a famous book at all. There's this couple that left the U.S., went to Antigua, just moved their life there. They're from Vermont, and they just set up a restaurant there. By no means the billionaires of the world, but just the way they describe their life, and like having that freedom. You know, it's not even just about the weather. It's about having that, what's that word? Agency over your own life. Versus taking orders from either society, clients, business, employees, bosses, etc., and having that agency. That's what really inspired us, and that's what we're trying to build a business. So the 3 core values for me, at least, of why I started the business were to have a lifestyle that I want, and by lifestyle I mean spend time the way I want to spend time with people I want to spend time with. Second was money. So not the first, but not the last, but definitely important. If you're not trying to make money, why do business? And the third was business as a creative expression, which is why we got into marketing. I am a creative soul in general, so is Alina. And this business provides us outlet for creativity. And at any given time, 2 of these 3 need to be checked off. I can't expect all 3 to be there all the time, but if there's not at least 2,
there you go.
things that are problems. So for example, if I don't have, the money's going down,
Yeah.
but there's lots of creativity.
Yeah.
For example, this podcast is creative. Second, there's a lifestyle, which is afternoon naps, for example. If that's there, I'm fine.
Yeah.
So any two of those three kind of matter. And I find having those conversations generally hard with people that are super successful because they're just like, hit your goal.
Yeah.
Here's a target for the year.
Yeah.
You got to like EOA, right? Like you got to get to the $1 million.
Yeah.
Forget everything else. Get to the $1 million, then we'll talk.
Yeah.
And I want to be that counter study, but like I think you and I are going to have a ton of conversations about that over time, just defining yourself beyond just being an entrepreneur.
You know, it's interesting. I'll tell you a story. There was a big hedge fund manager that went to Greece on vacation. He was a little island. He was doing his morning walk. He walked down to the fisherman who had just returned. Have you heard this story?
I love the story. Please tell it. I love the way you tell stories too. I love the story. I've heard this on Tim's podcast so much. I want you to do it.
Right. So he went down, in the morning, one of the fishermen had come in and he was emptying his daily catch. Right. Yeah. And the hedge fund manager, got to speaking to the fisherman and said, is this your boat? He said, yeah, it's my boat. And how many fish did you catch today? I got these are the fish, right? What are you going to do with them? I'm going to go and sell them down to the restaurants and at the market, whoever wants to come by. And the hedge fund manager started telling him, oh, what you need to do is collectivize with the other fishermen. Then you can control the price of fish, right? Then you can scale. Then you could buy 3 more boats and then this, that, and the other thing. And then the fisherman said, if I do all these things.
Like, senor.
Yeah. If I do all these things,
yes.
Then what happens? He says, what am I going to do? He says, well, then you can buy your own little house on a Greek island and go on a boat whenever you want, right? And live your best life. He's already doing that, man. He's already doing that. What are we trying to do here? For example, what is incredible to me, again, not judging anyone, but like parents who don't spend time with their kids and then are surprised how the kids turn out. I remember I was talking with a kid, mother was there, prospective, sign up. And I just asked her, do you read? That's one of the questions I asked her. What do you like to read, right? And
you mean the mother or the child?
I asked the child.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the kid's like, no. And the mom's playing Candy Crush freaking like while we're talking. It's like, no, she doesn't read. And I just want to ask her. I didn't. Do you? Did you read to your kids, right? Do you discuss books? Like, again, it's like you can't expect kids to turn out a certain way if you don't spend time with them and instill those habits. My daughter's 6, man, right? By the time she turns 12, that's it. 12 to 14, there's still some impact that I can have. But by the time she turns 14, her character is set, right? Yeah. I have to spend that time now to value education, reading, cultural visits, she goes to Greek school every Saturday, right? Like things that are important. Yeah. Otherwise, once you cross that bridge, you can never cross back, So it's really important. But again, what is important to you? Are you going to skip?
Or what are the costs you're willing to pay?
Yeah, that's right. You're going to skip your kids', basketball games and soccer games and acrobatics. There was the guy from, PIMCO, the CEO. Did you hear about that story?
No.
So basically, one of the biggest, Mohammed Al Aryan, bond managers in the world, if not the biggest, came home one day. His daughter, handwritten letter, listed all the things that the father had missed. You missed my piano recital. You missed my, musical performance in Little Mermaid. You missed my birthday. You missed.
That'll break my heart.
He quit the next day, right? But you can't get that time back. He realized it, God bless him, but he realized it too late. My kids are never going to write me that letter. Nope. Yeah.
That's. It gets personal, but like I know my dad was trying to do the best thing for his family. It's just he's a bit more reserved and quiet. He wasn't able to spend that much time with me in terms of what all I wanted was like a piece of wisdom, especially around my manhood. So he developed Parkinson's when I was around 20s, early 20s, and that was like adulthood for me, right? I'm finally a man, and like I'll get to talk to my dad about a lot of things. But he being the sole provider, not just for our family, he's taking care of his sister's family, his brothers, all throughout. And he had to be in the oil rigs. He had to be in the desert, digging out oil for the companies. He worked in an oil fields company. And we missed a lot of time together. And I can't sit and blame him. But for him, it was like, this is the cost I'm paying. Yeah. For example, I'm the only guy from my dad's side of the family to have studied abroad. and got a degree from an internationally acclaimed university. No one else had. So was it like a fair price for him to pay? I think he would say, yeah. It's like, yeah, son, sorry, I missed. And like he can't speak much right now because of the Parkinson's, doesn't allow him to communicate well. But I would imagine him saying that, like, I did this for you. Do forgive me. If I were to do it again, maybe we'd spend more time together. But that's missing a lot from other families that I see too, and it breaks my heart. But you mentioned reading. I want to segue into maybe more fun things.
Yeah.
You're a nerd.
Yeah.
I'm always.
I don't look like one though,
See, that wasn't a question. That was a statement.
Yeah, absolutely. Accusation. Yeah.
That was an accusation. I'm always looking for advices or book recommendations on the show. Are you more of a fiction, nonfiction kind
Everything.
of guy?
Oh my God. Yeah.
I know you're into comic books.
I used to be, as a kid, dude. I have boxes of comic books. I used to devour them. That was my introduction to reading, actually.
Yeah.
Like really, I was so into, now obviously everyone knows Marvel, but like X-Men, X-Force, X-Factor. I used to tear through dozens of comic books, like, every week when I was young. And that introduced me to just the joy of reading. I am a huge fan of dystopian fiction, right? Because I feel like we're living it in some ways, right? Like 1984, I've read, I don't know how many times, my favorite book.
Yeah.
But I keep going back and rereading it, and it's so...
But doesn't it depress you every time you read it?
What? It's what's happening.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't. Because I like to live in reality. If I want escapism, then I don't know, I'll go to Aquaventure, get on a slide through a Shark Tank. You know what I'm saying? Like, but I'm a thinker, and I'd like to see, kind of what's happening to us as a society.
Yeah.
These cancel culture, groupthink, basically surveillance, conformity in ideas, right? And this is what's killing me about U.S. universities, is that they're supposed to be forums for open discourse and discussion, but they're not anymore, right? If you have an unpopular speaker, he will be physically, restrained
Savage.
from entering the auditorium, or what's it called? The attendees will disrupt him endlessly and shout him down. Look, free speech is there for you to listen to and the opinions that you don't agree with, right? Otherwise, we're just programmed, right? And like for me, like independent thought, independence generally, but to be able to think independently, I might not agree with you, but you're as entitled to your opinion as I am, right? But that's slowly being smothered. And what's interesting too is like now with social media and technology, like back in 1984, they had to install the telescreens in your home, right? And you can never turn them off. Now we have our cell phones. Your Samsung TV is listening to you, right? We've invited this breach of privacy into our lives.
Yeah.
Nothing is private.
It's almost like they use it as a manual. The book, the novel was like, oh, that's how we do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. For me, it's just incredible to witness this now. I feel like I'm a little bit older, and I've seen a few things. I don't like certain things that are happening in terms of suppression of ideas, just because your ideas may not be popular, right? Ideas change, right? You don't have the right to shout someone down.
Yeah. And even the person, let's say their idea isn't right, let them come to that on their own as well. Because like people mature and they grow out of their own ideas as well. Yeah. So no one should hold an opinion too strongly ever. No. Because like you're operating under less information than you possibly can. You're not God. You don't know everything. Yeah. Any opinion you have is fallible.
Yeah, absolutely.
How can you be so confident in your own opinion? Like I live in the gray a lot, and it pisses Alina off a lot. It pisses a lot of my friends off because I just can't agree with neither the black or the white. I'm just hanging out in the gray, and I think Elon Musk talked about this. There's a term for it where you see both sides equally. Yeah. And it just messes with your brain, but at the same time, it keeps you stable too. Yeah. Because you can, if you were to let's say we do a debate on a certain topic, I can argue for and against as eloquently. Yes. Like together. Yes. How do I make up my mind? So we don't know.
Yeah. No, and this is what's the problem, especially in the States, this polarization. Yeah. Everybody has moved to the extremes, right? There's the U.S. government's about to shut down again, right? Because there's no consensus.
They're making a habit of this.
It's incredible, right? Because everybody has just moved to the polls. Like I think probably George H.W. Bush was the last really strong leader that we had. That's been a long time. Yeah. That's been a long time. Everybody else has been very polarizing one way or another. And that's not really consistent with what America is or what it was.
Yeah, that's not the America I grew up looking at. Yeah. More books like that, I guess. What else comes to mind? Or anything
I've been reading a
dissimilar
lot
to
of
that too.
historical fiction lately. So
Historical fiction,
yes.
okay.
So Mary Renault, Renault, unbelievably gifted writer. I've read now 5, 6. So once I get into a book, then I'll buy all the books of the author and try to read all of them, right? So I'm into book 5 now of hers,
Yeah.
but she had a trilogy on Alexander the Great's life, right?
Oh, cool.
Mind-blowing, unbelievable.
Okay.
So absolutely incredible. And then I read one on Theseus.
What was Alexander's last name? Just a random tangent.
He didn't have one back then. He was Alexander III of Macedon, son of Philip and Olympias. Yes,
I can't believe it. What family are you from? The Great?
Yeah.
The Great family?
Talk about an inspiration, that guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he went on horseback, right, all the way to Uzbekistan, Baluchistan. You have the Kalash tribe on the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan claiming to be descendants of his troops, right? They still
I could believe that
revere
for
him.
Afghanistan because these people.
Kandahar,
yeah.
right, second biggest city in Afghanistan, is from Alexandria. Okay, so it was a Greek city. It was founded as a Greek city, right? They found in India in East Bihar, East Bihor, which is on the freaking other side of the country, right? There was a Greek-speaking kingdom until the 1st century AD.
No.
Right, after the Romans had conquered Greece, and it was incredible. Like the legacy he left in art and culture and progressive ideas. So he was far ahead of his time. He knew that if you only relied on the Greeks, to implement their culture across, the known world, that it wasn't going to work. So he had mass weddings with his officers to Persian nobles, right? Yeah. He knew that he wanted to create a new identity based not on where you're from, but on a set of values, cultures, and ideas, right? So that legacy is still very strong, maybe less strong in 2023 than what it was. But it was a completely new way of looking at the world. Yeah. So anyways, to delve into his life, and I've read all the, biographies written by contemporary sources, Aryan and Roman sources, subsequent, kind of authors. But this really put me in his shoes, and it was just absolutely unbelievable.
I'm going to check that one out.
Yeah.
So Mary Renault.
Yeah.
Okay.
Life of Alexander. Yeah.
Have you read, do you do sci-fi a lot?
Not so much. I got to read Dune, though. I heard that's like a must read.
How did you know I was going to bring that up?
Really?
I was going to bring that up.
One of my kids was telling me about it yesterday.
It is messed up, but in such a good way. Yeah. But it's messed up.
Okay.
You will love it and hate it at the same time. You know how there are books that are either you love them or hate them?
Yes.
This is one that you do both.
Okay, interesting.
But the line I was trying to draw, and this is like really I'm showing my nerdiness now. Mm-hmm. I try to relate fiction to like business life sometimes. And there's so many, if there's one pitch I'd give you to read Dune, so many business and leadership lessons from the book.
Wow.
And you'd have to find them between the lines. But it has such wisdom, philosophical undertones, inquiries that you can only find in philosophical books. But he does it through the story.
Love it.
Whether it's adaptability, resilience, like when they get to a new planet, it's exactly like when your business is approaching a new territory and you're expanding somewhere, and all the things you need to be careful of, or understanding and leveraging resources. So they've got this like resource called the spice, the melange.
Yes.
And it's like I'm not giving anything away. It's part of the backside of the book, and how you manage resources that are finite in nature and other people want. There's so many business lessons. Like it was such a nerdy thing to do for me to be. Reading fiction is for me to turn my brain off. Yeah. Right. And then I'm reading that and I can't. I'm like,
you're taking notes and
that
stuff.
makes sense. I'm like, ethical leadership. Leading from the front, setting an example. And like there's all these kind of lessons in there that was really, really nerdy. So Dune, check it out.
It's on my...
it gets really book in weird for.
Yeah.
How many have you read, Marwan, of the Dune series? Just the first one? You never got past that one? So we nerded out about that earlier too. So
if I read the first one, I'm going all in. Got to read the. How many are there? How many volumes?
6.
6. Wow.
6, and then he died, and then his son wrote a few later.
All right, don't ruin it for me, man.
Come
on.
I don't think you want to. I don't think you want to read the ones that his son wrote.
Huh?
No, the author died. Not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, multiple people died. That's science fiction. There's death.
Lasers and whatnot.
Let's switch gears again, as I do. Memento Mind. I told you. Let's talk about EO.
Yeah.
And the impact that it has made, whether it's from the EOA days or EO days. Yeah. So Alina and I were part of EOA last year. We've taken a slight break this year with a lot of personal responsibilities on our plate. But it just seems to be such a different I can't put, so I'm supposed to do an ad read for EO for this podcast. It was really hard for me to do because for me, it's so many things. What is it for you? What does EO mean for you?
A community. Being an entrepreneur, at least for me, is not less so now, but since I found EO and have these mentors in my life, the loneliest endeavor in the world. The loneliest endeavor in the world. No one understands your struggles and your pains, and the challenges you face are often existential, right? And who do you go to for advice with that? And it's so interesting because when I joined Accelerator, I realized, that my struggles were not unique. This is totally normal. This is part of the process. It's going to be okay. Like even the most successful entrepreneurs have gone through these cycles and, kind of overcome these obstacles. So for me, it gave me my sanity that I didn't feel like I was alone, right? And I have, through my forum, a group of very dynamic entrepreneurs that also, are facing their own challenges, some of which are shared, some of which are different. But you feel like that is your support group, right? And that is so critical for me to understand that it's all going to be okay and that this is all just, another step on the journey. So it was a godsend in many ways. And I'm so humbled by so many of, my former fellow accelerators. They've just done amazing things. I take such inspiration from them. I have a lot of respect for anyone that builds their business from the ground up. I don't detract from anybody who's a second gen, right? Or who, got $1 million, to play with, invest. God bless them. But it's not the same journey, right? I'm started from the bottom, now I'm here. So for me, I identify with those individuals to see some of them doing so well and to learn from them and to, take inspiration from them. It's incredible. It's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what unfair advantage do you think you get in the day-to-day running your business? If you can point to something that recently, like you mentioned that, you have your strengths, but you have your faults and your weaknesses too.
Yeah.
Do you think it's amplified any of your identified strengths or nullified any of your faults, or any in particular that come to mind?
Yeah. So EO, for example, when it focuses on cash, so through Accelerator, you have 4, critical aspects of it. So cash management, that has been very, very beneficial. But then, 10 months ago, I hired an accountant from E&Y, so I don't worry about the finance stuff so far. But the importance of, again, what resource do you go to if you want to constantly grow as an entrepreneur? Yeah. You can read this book, that book, but it's not going to give you a whole toolbox. And EO does that. It gives you a toolbox. There's one on negotiations. There's one, workshop on scaling. There's one on, people and hiring and stuff, right? There's one on VAT implementation, not VAT, sorry, corporate tax.
Corporate tax, yeah.
So where else can you get access to all these resources?
Yeah.
So it's, and I think for me personally, again, I have so many people I can reach out to for specific things, just a phone call away, and they always answer, right? Man, fucking, this is going on in terms of, hiring and blah, blah, blah. I'll call my friend Craig from iTalent, the recruiter, and he'll break it down for me. Again, reference, it's all normal. This is totally typical, and this is how you should approach this problem because he's the expert in that field. Yeah. One of my other forum members, Aham, he's like a tech guru. He's got 3 tech companies. Anything tech related, I can go and talk to him. I have a digital vision. I want to do this. And he can help me ideate it and map it out and stuff like that. So you have this board of advisors that spans, all these different industries and areas that you can just call on anytime. Most people are pretty, accessible and generous with their time.
I love it. There's so few of these kind of organizations. I mean, there's so many of them, but there's so few that focus on the personal journey as well, right? There's all these technical things that you can get help with, but the more and more I talk to people on EO in this podcast, it's that journey of the earlier topic of self-discovery. Yeah, is such a big part. Yeah. Of it too, because you're right. Yeah, you can read stuff, and then you get the toolbox, and you can always hire someone, let's say, as a consultant that can give you the same advice as someone in EO would. But having a collective mind of people that are growing as individuals and not just their businesses is what stands out to me. And I'm just seeing this from the outside. I'm not in EO, not yet. It is one of my life goals to have a business that's worthy of EO. Hello, everyone. I want to take a moment to share something that's really, really close to my heart. As you know, this podcast isn't just a series of episodes. It's you and I getting mentored by the wisest of the wisest. Each episode is crafted with care, aiming to bring not just stories, but wisdom and insight into the fascinating and sometimes lonely world of entrepreneurship. This is more than just a podcast. It's a personal mentorship session recorded on camera for all of us to learn and grow together. And this is where you come in. If any episode has resonated with you, your subscription or your vote means the world to me. Every subscription lights a fire inside of me and fuels me to keep delivering content that I wish had existed before I started this podcast 2 years ago. So I humbly ask for your support. Please hit pause now and find that subscribe button on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening to this. It's a small action for you, but it means everything to me. Thank you for being a part of this community and for your support and for choosing to walk this path with me. Stay curious and stay inspired. Thank you so much. I wonder if this has come to your mind. I don't know if you've gotten advice on this particular thing or experience shares, succession planning. So a little birdie told me at some point you would like to not be in the business. Is that true?
No, that's bullshit. I don't know who says that. That's one of those EO lines. That's one of those blue pills I don't swallow. It's interesting. So my business is quite unique. And I think sometimes the EO advice is for everyone. And it's not, for example, this piece of advice is not for me.
Yeah.
I'm in the business. I like to be in the business. And
you don't want to ever sell it, walk away from it.
Look, I think I'm not looking to do so. But if someone comes along and, allows me to scale the business and to fully realize my vision, then I'm very interested, right? What are your plans to help me touch the lives of tens of thousands of students, not just thousands of students? I'm not the guy who, and it's interesting because so many times I've seen this fail, right? You hear this in EO a lot, and I don't agree with it. You got to work on the business, not in the business. In practicality, that's bullshit. Like if you're not some massive, kind of mogul, right, with like 10 different business lines, I like to work in the business. It gives me a lot of joy. My business is also highly dependent on my guidance, insight, support. Right? I'm not selling carpets here, right? I'm not a textile trader. So no, I don't know who told you that, but that's bad info.
No, I just tried my luck.
Yeah.
See that.
Delete that number from your phone contacts. Yeah.
But no, I feel what you're feeling. I see both sides of it. Like, I think there's again, it's not a black and white. You can't always be working on the business or always working in the business.
Yeah.
Like I think MC is pretty similar to you.
Yeah.
She loves that stuff, right? Like she wants to come up with a new lollipop.
Yeah,
I want to be the one to come up with the flavor, right? But the advice she probably would get is like, hey, get away from that stuff.
Yeah.
Look at expansion.
Yeah.
Get into other markets and do all that. Yeah. Other corporate corner office kind of stuff. And it reminds me of, I had this coach on once. He's now a really great friend. I think he's the wisest man in Dubai. Shout out to Murtaza. He told me a story about a client that ran this architecture firm. And he's kind of like, you roll up the sleeves, just want to do the thing. Yeah. Grew the business to a point where he could afford like a nice office, a full floor in a fancy building. Yeah. Now he has a corner office with a great view. Yeah. He'd spend 0 minutes in there. Yeah. He'd be out on the floor. Yeah. Working on the paper and stuff like that. He's like, I didn't ever want to do that. Yeah. So you'd rather hire. So for us, for Lena and I think the common ground that we found is we want a general manager of the business. Yeah. Right. So because that's the least interesting part to us. The general just in the name itself, like general management.
Sounds good. It's nice on a business card.
Exactly. It's like, what do you do? Generally, I manage. So we've started intentionally now started to audit our time and see where are we spending the time, and then how can we find a general manager that is affordable, yet someone that can, like, let's say we want to take a 2-week creative break for the business. Let's say we want to come up with content that can help us get more leads for our business.
We get the best ideas.
Just go away, Montana for 2 weeks, maybe in a ranch, just come up with like videos or ebooks or like stuff to promote ourselves, and then come back and have someone kind of manage it. Wouldn't that be kind of nice? Yeah. So do you have a general manager?
I do. He's a freaking legend. Shout out to Moody.
How you found them? Like, is this someone that grew internally
No,
in
actually,
the
it was,
business?
again, through Rishi, my partner. He brought in, again, GM. He brought in, I mean, I don't know, we have like 5, 6 admins now.
Yeah.
He brought in the finance guy, right? So he's a workhorse. That guy, oh man, he is so dedicated. Changed my life. You know, he's there sometimes till midnight, 1, 2 a.m. because he wants to be there. He sees like where we're going. Yeah. And he's taken a lot of pressure off me, without question. So, very hard to find another Mudit. I can ask if he has a friend.
Yeah. Mudit, if you're listening to this.
Don't go work for Naeem, though.
I mean, I mean, how did you have an idea before you hired the general manager? Was your mentor helping you with like coming up with a job description, for example?
He's the one. He's the one who did all of that.
Yeah.
Right. So I can have lots of ideas, but when it comes to certain fields, I'm not the best guy to implement them.
Yeah.
So he's helped brought that structure. Right.
And what was the selling point from you? Let's say you're 80% owner of Hale. Yeah. You want to bring this guy in and make sure that he would love or she would love being here with you. What was your selling point? Let's say you're not at the level you want to be. Yeah. But you're selling the dream and the vision.
Who's at the level that they want to be?
That's true. You're never there. You're always chasing, aren't you? Yeah. Yeah, but how did you sell the vision to Moody?
Look, I think what's interesting about our business, again, is the human impact aspect of it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I never thought I would make tremendous money doing this. I didn't make money for a very long time. Mm-hmm. It wasn't about that. It was about, I am, impacting the growth of these young people and playing a very important, part in their lives during the most maybe stressful period of their young lives. And I will see the tangible outcomes of my input, right? No. So he bought into that story. I think as a company, we continue to grow and touch more people in terms of the number of students we service and stuff like that. But it's not like, dude, if you want to go do investment banking and just make money, go do investment banking, right? We are making a difference in people's lives that matter to him. Yeah. Through education. So I think that's so important is like, again, what I look for in new hires now is like a real commitment to education, not just getting a degree from a fancy place, but have you interacted with kids? Have you mentored them? Have you coached? Do you have some kind of experience, volunteerism, teaching? Are you also a learner? That's critical. Yeah. So again, our business is a little different from everybody else's.
Yeah, man, where were you guys when I was like applying for universities? Were you guys around in 2004, 5?
No, so 2000, so 11 years now. So 2012. Yeah. August.
I mean, especially like kids of my background. So my father didn't complete high school. Yeah. My mom finished just high school. So they grew up in a different country, and like, our mindset of being around certain people here, the expectations are different. We were completely clueless when it came to universities. Luckily, I had good friends. Yeah. And they were guiding me throughout, and they helped me with my applications. Like one of them even went to Canada first before I did. Yeah. Like, for example, in the school I went to, Shoifat in Abu Dhabi for my last year, that was also a fun journey there, because I went to a very, I would say, basic school for the first 10 years of my life. We didn't even have a pitch or a field to play sports in. Yeah. It was a villa converted, an Emirati's villa converted into classrooms. Wow. 2 separate buildings, one for boys, one for girls. And I was the third batch to complete 10th grade, and the school stopped after 10th grade because they hadn't built it. So I did that for the first 10 years of my life, which kind of gives you an idea of like, how could we have known what is at grade 12 and beyond if we didn't even know what's beyond grade 10. So luckily, my dad's career got better over life. So when I joined school, that basic school, he was at this level. But by the time I got to 12th grade, he could afford Shoifat and the fees. And I get there, and all these kids who've come from these backgrounds, wealthy parents, educated parents, and they all know, here's the 6 schools I'm applying to, here's the 8 schools I'm applying to, here's the extracurriculars I've done, here's the community shit that I've done. And I'm like, I just kept getting good grades and stuff, like I didn't know what to do. Luckily I had those friends to like kind of guide me, and I think what you do is super important for that community where the parents may not know. And this is not the Candy Crush playing parents. These are the parents who come to you with like, we don't fucking know what to do. But please help us.
But there's plenty of parents that come to me that have gone to Ivy League schools, but they also recognize that the game has changed. Oh, right. Okay. This is such a dynamic landscape that from year to year, right, changes. So when I applied to Hopkins, in '96, the acceptance rate was about 32%. Now it's like 8%. right? Northeastern University, when my sister applied, the acceptance rate was 55%. Now it's 5.6%, right? The stakes have gotten much higher. And the expectations of what students need to be doing also have gotten much higher. So it's a very fluid environment. And, it's funny because I have, again, some of these educated parents who have preconceived notions like, oh, George Washington is a party school, George Washington University. Not so much anymore, right? Or Northeastern is where you go if you can't get into like BU or Tufts. Northeastern's acceptance rate is lower than BU's and Tufts. Right? So it's interesting. And I think it comes to just understanding your own ignorance. And that's why you hire people who know what they're talking about, right? Because they they know more than you, right? And you need, for us, I'm an honest broker of information.
Yeah.
I will straight up tell you what it is, what you have to do. And even if you do everything right, how slim the chances are of you getting into Stanford. I've had Stanford acceptances 11 years in a row. I had 2 last year, 2 the year before, 2 the year before that. That's the hardest university in America to get into. So I know, what it takes to get there. But it just, doesn't always, if you hinge your success on acceptance to one university, you're setting yourself up for failure. Because if you don't get into Stanford, I remember I had a girl, she didn't get into Stanford. Oh my God, family crisis meeting, this, that, oh my goodness, end of the world. She ended up getting to Princeton and Caltech. And Caltech was an even better fit for her based on her personality. As long as you take a healthy, perspective that you're applying to these 10, 12 schools, they're all good fits for you. Some of them just happen to be way more difficult to get into than others. If you get into one, you're good. But some parents, again, for the bragging rights, I got into seven universities, 5 Ivy League ones and this and that. And I'm just like, what is the point of this? I had a parent last year, come to me and say, my daughter, she didn't get into Rice. I'm like, but she got into her first choice Cornell. So what does it matter if she didn't get into Rice? Who cares?
Yeah.
Right? But again, it's a matter of perspective and how you define
ego
success.
thing too, right?
Yeah. I think that's also part of the Dubai landscape is that these parents, a lot of them, not all of them, of course, right? But many, this is a status symbol for them, right?
Yeah.
They have...
It's what you talk about at parties,
Yes.
right? Like my
Yes.
kid got accepted into XYZ.
Yeah.
And A.
Bragging.
Yeah.
Right? But guess what? It's a meritocratic process. You can't buy your way in. That's what I love about it. I don't love all the rules of the game, but I don't make the rules. You got to play the game. They dictate the rules. Oh, they let in the diversity aspect and so many kids with, low income. Like, that's
the game.
That's it.
Yeah.
So what? Are you at a disadvantage because you're wealthy? That you're not from Somalia? Like, is that what we're talking about now?
Yeah.
So for me, again, the university you go to is less important than the impact you have while you're there.
Yes.
And some kids go to universities that maybe they went there on a full scholarship, right? And it's not, I don't know, Brown or something. Maybe they got, all kinds of other incentives to enroll. So I had last year a student get into USC, University of Southern California, full cost of attendance scholarship. It covers books, travel, food, accommodation,
You had me at books.
Yeah. Saved, her parents $1 million dirhams, right? More than that.
That's ridiculous.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't know the motivations. Maybe this guy got into Dartmouth, but chose to go to Tufts. I don't know.
Yeah.
So for me, it's it's a reflection. The outlook is a reflection of the value system that has been instilled in the student that comes from the parents. The most successful kids, many of them, gone to Stanford and Harvard. They're very freaking relaxed, dude. I'm going to get into one of these schools. Which one? Don't know. I did everything I could. When I submit the application, I'm proud of my record. I'm proud. I gave 100% on, academics, extracurriculars. Let them figure out, where I belong. And that's where it is, where you belong. I've had 3 or 4 kids get rejected by Johns Hopkins who got into Stanford. Mm-hmm. Statistically speaking, Johns Hopkins is easier to get into, but it attracts a different type. Mm-hmm. Right? A Caltech kid is a very different type. Like I can see those kids, right? University of Chicago is a very different type. And I am super proud, to be honest with you. Like I can tell within 3 to 5 minutes, 5 minutes is a long time, if the kid is really, truly special. Mm-hmm. Right? Real recognize real. You know what I'm saying? Game recognize game. So for me, it's like, because I've seen so many of these kids, I know the ones that are truly, there's a spark there. that are excited, about learning that. They're getting me excited. I start getting like really into it. I don't even know half the things they're talking about, machine learning and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, man, this kid is really special.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring for me to work with those kids, right? I can't meet with all the kids all the time. Obviously, I have too many. I provide oversight to the entire process, right? Yeah. But for some of these kids, it's such a privilege to work with them and just be like, man, wow, this kid's going places. It's one kid, so funny. I told him before he left, and he's the son of EO members, Adi Palicha. I said he'd gotten into Stanford. I said, make sure you invite me to the IPO party on your yacht before you go. Now, he's a co-founder of Zepto, which is like worth $950 million or something.
Holy shit.
Got to Y Combinator, then ended up, going to Stanford, finishing his degree there. So I'm expecting that invitation, Adi, to the IPO party. Don't forget about me.
I'm going to especially cut this part out and I can send it to him.
No, but it's just like, man, it's inspiring. But, it's also kind of disheartening is when you see parents pile on these expectations on these kids.
Yeah.
Their own expectations. And you see that the kid, he's very good. But it's like an athlete scout, right? Like, who's going to make it to the NBA when they're in high school, from freshman year. But you might not make it to the NBA. You can still, play professionally in, I don't know, China or something, right? But like if you're setting yourself up for disappointment because you're expecting, because your kid is something that he's not actually what you think he is. Right? You're blinded by love. I get that. You're also blinded by ignorance because you don't know what the factors are. But that's not like a healthy way to approach it.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to play dice with your kids in that way, right? Can I ask you, do you ever come across parents that are, let's say they start the journey with you, with the applications and stuff, but they get cold feet at the end because they don't want to send their daughter or their son away?
Yeah.
Because that almost happened to me.
What usually happens with those kids is that we'll pivot and that they'll stay locally or regionally.
Okay.
Like, so maybe they'll go to NYU Abu Dhabi or Georgetown in Qatar, right? Or Cornell in Qatar or something like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe they'll start off their education here for 2 years and then wait and then transfer after 2 years. But if they come to me, like they're set on going, abroad 100%. Otherwise, they're not going to invest unless, again, something unforeseen happens, disciplinary problems, academic problems, failing your grades, getting thrown out of school, blah, blah, blah. Then that shifts the focus.
Makes sense. Yeah, my journey was, again, with the lack of knowledge that I had and my parents had, and I didn't even bother to think about it because it just didn't come up at our dinner parties. Like your kid's education, as I told you, I'm the only one who went abroad. Was very simple in the sense that my parents had Pakistani friends, and every time their son or daughter reached the age of 18, they went to Pakistan to study. That's just what they know, right? And don't blame them for that. So my dad was pretty set on sending me to thing. Little did he know that Shoifat really got in my head. I see all these kids and they're going, applying to Canada, and I'm like, fuck, I'm going to go to Pakistan. And I've never lived there in my life. And I have to go and settle there. It just didn't seem like an ideal thing. So I made a presentation for my dad at the age of 17. Slide deck, PowerPoint.
Nice.
It was called Why I Should Go to Canada. And it had stats in there. So I had a pie chart with my classmates, how many of them are going to US, how many of them going to Canada, how many going to UK. Then I went through and bashed the US and bashed UK because it's too expensive, US because I'm like, my name has a Muhammad in it. It's just post 9/11. Let's just not go there right now. Well, let's get to Canada and then we can get to things. And then I made this whole presentation to my dad. For his entire life, he's a man who thought my son is going to Canada. My son's going to Pakistan.
Yeah.
One presentation took 15 minutes, 20 minutes. He looks at me. He saw something. He's like, you've got the fucking fire.
Yeah.
He said, you're going to Canada. He walked straight into his room, didn't talk to me for 2 days. All he was doing is getting the numbers together because he'd never budgeted for that.
Yeah.
And my mom, to this day, let me try to do what you do with your dad's accent.
Yeah.
I should have never sent you away. She hates that I left.
Yeah.
Because it took me away from her.
Yeah.
Me being the only son, I have 3 sisters, but sons are special. Not my words, mom's words. Sent her away, and I also went into an environment where it's culturally very different. And I deviated a lot from my family in terms of my mental models for how I approach life are very different. Our first principles are the same, being a good human, but how we approach life and decisions and major decisions are very different. So she's like, I should not have sent you. And that could have, that kind of attitude could have kept me in a place where I wouldn't have fully flourished or grown and stuff like that. So I think there's still an area of society where Hale is really important. I think even from the little pieces that you do and send it to Khaleej Times once in a while. I love seeing that, because if I was around and if I was a parent at that time, I would read this stuff, be like, wait, it's possible for this kind of person, for that kind of person to do that? It just never occurred to them that was possible.
Well, let's talk about, financial support and considerations. Like, we've helped students get over $53 million in scholarships. There are students in the US that have graduated because of our assistance, right? We have a Hale Scholars program, which is pro bono, which we work with the kids for free, and we only send them to universities that we know will pay for everything. I sent a girl to Harvard there last year from Syria, right? Talk about changing lives. I have parents come to me, Peter, I can only afford to pay this much. I'll work it out. Like, we will send you somewhere good, not some Mickey Mouse university, right? That we will get the cost, to match your budget. So that for me is also extremely empowering. I sent a Nigerian girl to Dartmouth on a full cost of attendance scholarship. I sent a Palestinian girl to Middlebury, full cost of attendance scholarship. We're working with Syrian Youth Empowerment, SYE. We help 5-6 of those kids every year. One's at Brown, So like, you talk about success, man. That kid, if he didn't go there, right? You stay in Damascus or whatever, forget about it, right? That's my legacy.
Yeah.
Those are my metrics.
100%. I think it's the most important investment my dad ever made.
Yes.
Barring real estate and stuff, like putting money in. Like, I luckily graduated without any debt, any student debt, because my dad paid for everything.
Yeah.
And I have extreme privilege in that kind of sense, right? Coming from that kind of, but he is broke now because of what he did. So I got to pay back.
Education, you think education is expensive, try ignorance. Education is the only thing they can never take away from you.
I like that.
You can lose your house, be flat broke. Your kids can't talk to you. Your wife can leave you, but you still have your education.
Absolutely. That's what he said too. So my dad is a man of less words. But when there are men or women like that, you remember the few things that they say because they only say a few things. So there was this one time we were driving to school. He was dropping me off, and we stop at a traffic light, and there's construction workers and laborers kind of digging up a side of the road to build some tunnel or whatever. And he's looking and he's staring at them intently. And then he pokes me. He's like, look at them. Yeah. I'm like, he's like, do you see them? Yeah. And I said, yeah. He's like, do you want to be like them? Yeah. Do you want to do what they're doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't think so. He's like, well, then study.
You better believe it.
And that's, again, 5 nuggets that he's left me with. There's such an impact on me.
Yeah.
When that visual was in my mind, like, what a way to teach a lesson.
But it's so interesting because you're bringing me back now to my childhood. I grew up super proud to be from Brockton, Massachusetts, third biggest city in Massachusetts, about 35 minutes south of Boston. Yeah. We're known for our boxers, right? So the only undefeated heavyweight in world history, Rocky Marciano, came out of Brockton, and Marvelous Marvin Hagler came out of Brockton. It's kind of a rough and tumble place, right? And I'm glad to be from there. It also helped me make me who I am. But I look at my friends from the neighborhood. Although I went, to a fancy private school from 8th grade onwards, it wasn't a given. One guy went to the Marines. One guy became a fireman. One guy works in as a plumber. Another guy works in a roofing supply warehouse. Another dude works as a car salesman. Some of them went to some college, right? Most of them didn't finish. But like for me, it was never, taken for granted. And that's what I think also, is a problem here, right? A lot of these students that maybe shouldn't be going to university are going simply because of societal pressures and this and that. But it wasn't like a given that we're all going to go to university, or I was going to go to university because my social circle that I grew up with didn't have that option. But the fact that I knew that I had it, I better not fuck it up. And that was motivation to go and kill it, right? And again, I just go back to Johns Hopkins. I was a good student in high school, not exceptional. Hopkins, I became an exceptional student because I was in the right environment, surrounded by the right people. I met so many kids like me who were all, second-gen Americans. All of our parents were immigrants, right? I look at my best friends. One's an Iranian Jewish American. One's Iranian Armenian American, Iraqi American, Punjabi American, Coptic Egyptian American. I kind of felt like I fit in. We were all pretty bright. very diverse set of interests. But like, yeah, that's like, geez, man, I finally found like where I belong. And the professors were there. I remember being insulted in high school a couple times, like publicly. Like, I was like, what the fuck? Like English class one time, Miss Bailey, rest in peace. I'd asked a question in English class, and she, at the conclusion of my question, she answered it, and I said, okay, I get it now. And she was like, oh, Davos, if you get it, then I must be doing something right. Like in front of the whole class. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, are you serious? Like, but anyways, at Hopkins, it was like people were there to lift me up. Man,
wow.
They gave me wings and I could fly.
Wow.
And I'm the person I am because of that. So everything academically, obviously by extension professionally, came from going to the right university. It was amazing. It was incredible. I just love to give back to that community, the Hopkins community, be part of it and to be involved. And now like with Harvard, right? When I went to Harvard, I knew, man, like from the first day I was going to go there and crush it because I was a little bit older. It was my second master's degree. It wasn't my first ride at the rodeo. Like, I'm just going to go here and just destroy everything. So I received the Alumni Council Book Prize, which was given to the student most active on campus. Dude, this was a serious award. They had a serious party, like catered wine, cheese, freaking crudités and whatever. It's like present Peter Davos with the Alumni Council Book Prize. So I called my dad, and Harvard's maybe like 15 minutes away from where he lives. Like, Dad, you got to come on Tuesday. Tuesday night, they have this reception. Give me this award. He's like, Tuesday, I have a lot of fucking work to do, so I will not be able to make it. But, graduated Marshall in my class, literally first in my class. I got so many scholarships because I was paying for my education and I preferred somebody else pay for it. So I entered a lot of competitions that, one essay, dude, I freaking got a $10,000 scholarship by submitting an essay that I banged out in an hour and a half, right? I knew the value of money. You know what I mean? So I'm like, oh, shit, if I can make money like this, it's better than working for it. So for me, it was also like an incredible platform to meet amazing people because we had so many, obviously, bright minds, the biggest in business and academia coming. But it's just like, I don't know, be clear about what you're trying to do before you get into it, right? Because these opportunities that we have, don't take them for granted, dude. Yeah. Not everybody has that opportunity. And because my dad was denied the opportunity to be educated, because many of my friends didn't have that, I was very consciously aware how lucky I was. I'm not just going to go there and coast. I had a good time, don't get me wrong. I had a lot of fun in college, Mr. Fun. But it was like I handled my business too.
Yeah. Well, I had the same thing. I think the passion came from a desire to not just prove that, our family can break out of our usual mold, but also being the only one. Yeah. So if I fuck up, it's going to be known. No, bro. If I mess this up, the story is going to go around. Because if I had like 16 cousins and they're all going to different universities, if one kind of messes up, it's that one of those.
You're going to mess it up for the other 16. There's never going to be another one after you.
Exactly. And I had a younger sister to inspire. She's 7 years younger than me, right? And I wanted to play, and I have played the mentor role in her life, and I couldn't let myself down, couldn't let her down. Yeah. And whatever your fuel, your fire is, like, find out early. Yeah. For that phase of life, because that fuel and fire changes, as you said, like, you're 40 something, now 44. Yeah. And you have different, like, let's say, areas of focus in life. Yeah. But find whatever that fuel for that moment is, for that phase, and just abuse it. Absolutely. But still have fun, because Mr. Fun has to be around.
This whole thing, I'm seeing people my age now drop dead. It's crazy. Yeah. Like, I can't even believe it. Like, massive heart attacks out of nowhere. And like, you gotta, but again, take care of yourself too. Like, you gotta take care of yourself.
100%. Marwan has informed me that we are close to our 2-hour spot.
No way. Wow.
Could you believe it?
That was quick.
We've been talking for 2 hours.
Incredible.
There's still a lot more I want to talk to you.
Got to come back here.
Maybe we come back here. I do want to.
Episode 2.
Because you talked about people dying, I want to end on a positive note.
Yeah.
Let's do a rapid fire. Okay. You down for it?
Yeah.
You can't think. You just got to pick.
All right.
One or the other.
Hard for me not to think. So always kind of gears shifting up here.
It's a this or that. You have 1 second to answer. Okay. Beaches. Mykonos or Miami?
Neither. Both are terrible.
Okay. Coffee. Americano or Greek coffee?
Coke Zero.
All right. As you guys call it, soccer or American football?
Dude, football is football. Soccer is soccer.
Which one do you play with a foot?
Man, listen.
Which one's shaped like a
I'm
ball?
going to get the pads on right now. I'm going to tackle you. It's
Which
just football.
one's shaped like an egg?
I am not getting into this. It's
And which
called
one's
football.
shaped like a ball?
Football in Spanish.
All
I
right.
get that one. Yeah.
Cool. Bouzouki, am I saying that right? Or
Yes.
jazz?
Bouzouki, definitely. 100%.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Mythology. That's Greek gods or comic book superheroes?
Greek gods are my heroes.
yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. Baklava or apple pie?
Apple pie. Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
I
Some
didn't
ice cream on
expect
it.
that.
Heat it up. Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right. I don't know if I can say that. Is it Parthenon?
Yes.
Parthenon or the Empire State Building?
Parthenon. Obviously renowned as the greatest architectural marvel of the world.
All right.
Yeah.
Classic Greek cinema or Hollywood?
Neither. Book. Yeah.
Books inspired by...
Yeah, books
Greek
based on Greek
stories.
mythology. Like Alexander the Great and stuff.
Exactly.
300, forget about that. That movie, oh my God.
yeah.
You could put it on mute and I could just,
Yeah.
speak the dialogue. 100%.
All right, last one. Traditional Greek dance or line dancing?
Yeah, I don't dance, man. I don't dance. I don't do that. Yeah, I just sit back and observe.
Hey, maybe after you're done your
Just get
scuba
jiggy
diving.
here, a little jiggy here. That's how I get down. I'm not a dancer. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. I think we're ready to wrap up.
Yeah.
There's one last question and we can end it off on.
Yeah.
And I think because you're such a good one with quips and one-liners, I'm going to borrow this and steal this from Tim Ferriss. Sorry, Tim. I'm just a fanboy. He asked this question, which I'm going to ask you now. If you had, let's say, a billboard on Shakeside Road, millions of people passing by every day, congested traffic, and there's a message you can put on there.
Yeah.
And it can't be commercial. It can't
Yeah.
be promoting your
Yeah.
business. What would you like people to see or read?
Get up and go. Get up and go. We live in a society where there's so many excuses about why you can't do this and why you can't do that. I don't believe in any of that. Get up and go. You want to lose weight? Go to the freaking gym, right? Stop feeling sorry for yourself. You want to go to a great school? Put in the work, man. Get up and go. Make it happen. Stop talking about it and stop finding, reasons why you can't, why today's not a good day. It's every day, man. David Goggins, right? Just get up and go. Done. That's
Okay, I'm
how,
gonna write
live your
that
life
in
like
bold.
that. Yeah. What are you doing today?
Get up. And I'm getting up from here and going.
I got to go. I'm going to the office. Yeah.
Peter, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Naeem. It was awesome.
This is a lot of fun. I can't believe the amount of things I still have to talk to you. So you'll have
All
to
right.
come back.
Might have some interesting discussions in a couple months. So I'll be happy to come back. Yeah.
Something new on the...
Who knows? Game is to be sold, not to be told, Naeem.
I love it, man.
All right. Thanks
so much,
Take
buddy.
care.
Cheers.
Take care. Man.